But basically, when you started playing guitar, and
Started when I was 18.
playing guitar when you were 18.
Yeah.
Why so late?
Because I started off playing drums when I was 12. I liked that, and then I didn't hear any guitar players until I was about 15 or so. Man, in those days, the saxophone was the instrument that was always happening on the records. When you heard a guitar player, it was always a treat. So I went out collecting R&B guitar records, and the solos were never long enough. They only gave them one chorus, and I figured was the only way that I was going to get to hear enough of what I wanted to hear was to go get a guitar and play it myself. So got one for $1.50 at an auction. It was a arch top, F-hole, cracked face, unknown brand guitar because the whole finish had been sanded off of it. Looked like it had been sandblasted. And the strings were about, a good inch off of the fingerboard. And I didn't know any chords. But I started playing lines right away and then started figuring out chords after that. And finally got the Mickey Baker book and learned a bunch of chords off of that.
Who were some of those early guitar players you were listening to?
I used to like Johnny Guitar Watson, Clarence Gatemouth Brown, Guitar Slim, Hubert Sumlin, Matt Murphy.
Were there any bands, actually playing in your town, in your area?
Oh yeah, sure. In San Diego, when I was in high school down there, they had plenty of rhythm and blues bands. And most of them played instrumentals, only a few of them had singers.
You were born in San Diego?
No, but that's where I was when I started getting interested in that kind of music.
You were born in Palmdale?
No, I was born in Baltimore.
Oh, Baltimore.
Yeah. And I just happened to be living in California at that time.
Were your parents musical at all?
My father played guitar when he was in college. He had an old guitar sitting around the house, but it didn't feel as good to me as the one for $1.50.
So he never really showed you anything, right?
Well, he played around the house like once every 3 years. He'd pick it up and go wank, wank, wank. But that was about it.
How long did you play drums?
I started when I was about 11 or 12. I still play a little bit.
Did you have any actual training or lessons or anything?
I had a few lessons. I went to a summer school one time when I was in Monterey, and they had basic training for kids who were going to be in the drum and bugle corps when school went back in. I remember the lessons where the teacher's name was Keith McKillop, and he was the rudimental drummer of the area in Pacific Grove. And they had all these little kids about 10, 11 years old lined up in this room. You didn't have drums, you had these boards.
Pads?
No, not pads, but a plank. Just a plank laid across some chairs, and everybody stood in front of this plank and went rattly-tat on the plank. And I didn't actually have a drum until I was about 14 or 15. All the rest of my practicing had been done on top of this bureau in my bedroom, which happened to be a nice piece of furniture at one time. But some perverted Italian had got it and painted it green all over, and the top of it was all scabbed off from where I was beating it with the sticks. So finally my mother got me a drum and allowed me to practice out in the garage. I had just one snare drum. And then I entered my rock and roll career at 15 when I talked them into getting me a complete set, which was a kick drum, a rancid little Zinn hi-hat, one snare, one floor tom, and one Zinn ride cymbal, about a 15-inch ride cymbal. Whole set cost $50. And I was playing my first professional gig at a place called the Uptown Hall in San Diego. It was in the Hillcrest district at 40th and Meade. I remember it well. Going to my first gig, got over there and set my drums up and noticed that I had forgotten my only pair of sticks. And I lived way on the other side of town. There was no drumsticks. But I was really hurting for an instrument in those days. The band rehearsals that we had before we got that gig used to be over at this guy named Stewart's house. His father was a preacher, and he didn't have any room or interest in having a drum set in the house, but they allowed me to beat on a pair of pots that I held between my legs. And I'm sitting there trying to play shuffles on these two pots between my legs.
When did you start playing guitar in the band? I mean, when did you get your first real decent guitar?
Well, I didn't get an electric guitar until I was 21. And the first one that I got was, I rented a Telecaster from this music store. I had that for a while. And then I bought a Jazzmaster. I had that for about a year and a half. I used to play like lounge jobs, you know, sit on a stool, strum 4 chords in a bar, anniversary waltz, happy birthday, 1 twist number per night, don't turn up, you know, all that kind of crap. Nobody else in the band really knew what the chord changes were to these dumb songs. They're all trying to figure out what was going on in the fake book. Nobody could read music, you know, that kind of crap. Places like Tommy Sandy's Club Sahara in San Bernardino, and can't remember some other clubs around West Covina. Really boring, miserable places. I worked with a group called Joe Perino and the Mellow Tones. And then I got a chance to write this music for a movie. And I actually earned some money doing that. And so with the money that I got from that film job, I bought a Gibson ES5 Switchmaster, which I used for about 5 years, recorded the first 3 albums on that guitar. And still got it, by the way. It's been all souped up since then. And also with the money that I got from that film, I bought a recording studio from this other guy. Started working on that.
What film was that?
There was a movie called Run Home Slow. It was a Western, starred Mercedes McCambridge. It was written by my high school English teacher.
Oh, was it actually released?
Yeah, it's been on TV a few times.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you get royalties for it?
Oh, no.
No. Is your name on there?
Oh, yeah. I've done music for 4 films. First one was called The World's Greatest Sinner, starring Timothy Carey, about a guy who thinks he is God, and then later on has doubts. And in order to find out whether or not he really is God, he breaks into a church and steals a piece of communion bread and takes it home and sticks a pin in it to see if it'll bleed. Of course it does, at which point the film turns into Technicolor. Then there was Run Home Slow, and there was a short film called Burnt Weenie Sandwich, and 200 Motels.
Burnt Weenie Sandwich?
Yeah, that was commissioned by some foundation that was associated with the educational TV station in San Francisco. I think it was called Dilexi Foundation, something like that. They gave me a budget to put it together, which, you know, barely covered what it cost to do the film, and showed it a few times on educational TV.
How did you know how to go about writing a film score?
Well, I've been composing since I was 14, and I've been very interested in movie music. Checked with a few other people who are a lot smarter than me about the mathematics of synchronization and all those kind of problems. And just said there's no reason in the world why I shouldn't be able to do this. So I did it.
So you were using the Gibson for the first 3 Mother's albums.
Yeah.
Was there any band really worthwhile that happened to you before the Mothers? I mean, were you playing really started growing?
I had a 3-piece power trio that was called the Mothers.
M-U-T-H,
Yeah, and the guys that were in that were Les Papp on drums and Paul Woods on bass and me. And we were working at a place in Ontario, California called the Saints and Sinners. It was like mostly Mexican laborers who came in there. It was kind of a go-go bar. Lots of beer and a few waitresses that would jump up on the table, that kind of a thing.